Hello and welcome to Go Narrative's little Friday afternoon stream. If you joined last week or saw the recording, you'll know that I mentioned that this time feels pretty good to do a stream. And I tried to do it actually on Mondays, and it just didn't feel the same. Just not the same vibe, not the right kind of vibe for a Monday. But Friday, after an amazing week with some amazing storytelling and some amazing fun, and I mean, seriously, my storytelling this week included real life storytelling in Disneyland. It included storytelling with my boys and my family, watching a bunch of Star Wars. Anybody who knows me knows that I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Star Wars and always have, as many of us born in the year that it was released do. And of course, the storytelling around business. I get a massive kick out of stories, hearing stories, telling stories. You know, for me, it all started way, way, way back. My first year or so of life, my parents had to take some pretty drastic measures for my safety because they basically bought a building site for a home. I mean, there's fixer-uppers and there's houses you have to fix up to make fixer-uppers, right? And there was only one room in that house that was safe for a baby that was crawling and starting to walk, and that was an attic bedroom. So any night times, nap times, and any times my increasingly pregnant mother needed me out from under her feet, that's where I got sent. So very early on, I had to start telling stories to try and shape the actions in the world around me. And then not long after that, we moved from the UK to the US. I eventually moved back and moved back again, back and forth, back and forth. I've done the transatlantic thing more times than I care to count. I did actually try counting once, and it was a lot. But we moved to the US when I was young, very young, about 3, and we moved all over. So I was constantly hearing new stories. I was constantly telling my own story as well. So it just reinforced it for me. Kind of like an army brat without the army. So that makes me just a brat, I guess. But anyway, today we are going to be having a bit of fun with storytelling. And we're going to be looking at 3 things. And it's these 3 Ds. That's why this is called the Power of 3D Story Stream, because we're going to uncover and unleash the power of the stories that you want to tell. And we're going to do that by picking on somebody. So the companies that we pick on have not been asked, but you know what? Your website's public, guys. So, you know, and it's also free information. Anybody who is friends with Jeffrey Colon on LinkedIn will see that he had a really interesting conversation about this today, giving away free information. Well, CrowdStrike are going to get some little story nuggets a la gratis today. But the reason why I do these teardowns is to show that power of those 3 things. And I know what it's like not only to learn something new and to try and apply that in business, just like you're doing by joining this stream. I also know what it's like to do it for storytelling. And when I first started, I panicked. Why, you ask? Why did you panic? Well, I panicked because I assumed somebody would have solved this problem, business storytelling. And when I went to look for frameworks to use, I couldn't find any. I found frameworks, don't get me wrong, but I just couldn't find any that were really appropriate for business. And I panicked. And I don't want you to panic. So I'm here today to say, don't panic. It's going to be okay. There's a way forward, and it's going to unleash not only the power of 3D storytelling, but it's fun. It's great when you find a tool that works. And the number of people that I have led through using this tool and the amount of positive change that's had on their abilities to tell a story, to make the point that they're trying to make, is really profound. And that you're going to get, at the very least, a little taste of that today. Now, when I went to go and find some frameworks, I did mention that I found some frameworks, right? I found frameworks like The Hero's Journey. And The Hero's Journey is a great framework if you're writing a novel or making a movie. It's a great tool for that. The thing is, making movies and convincing a leadership team to give you $250,000 of budget for an initiative that you're seeking to land are very, very different types of storytelling. The thing is, storytelling is our operating system. That's what a lot of people just don't realize until they hear it. Like, what do you mean, Matthew? What? It's our operating system? I can see the world around me and I choose what I'm going to do. And my operating system is my motivations and the things I'm seeking to do. And I'm like, yeah, your story. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, for starters, as Will Storr said, I love saying his name because Will Storr, storytelling. He's a author, reporter, and wrote a wonderful book called The Science of Storytelling. And in this one chapter near the beginning, he talks about how we are trapped in a pitch dark prison. What? A pitch dark prison, you say? Well, where is your existence, right? It's in here, in your brain. Where is your brain? Your brain is in your skull. There's no light in your skull. Hopefully there's no light in your skull. And our eyes, our ears, all of our senses, we gather all that information and we put it into our brain, and our brain goes, boom, here's the world. And boom, here you are, central character, hero, if you will. Go forth and prosper. And of course, we spend our lives building up to this. Go back to the Matthew who is stuck in the attic, right? 6, 9, 12 months old. And he's building a picture of the world around him. Right? If you've got kids, you know what it's like to watch them grow and learn. Right? We're all doing that. You're growing and learning just by being here today. In fact, there's a Beastie Boys lyric that says, the day that I stop this learning is the day that I die. Something to that effect. And of course, it rhymed when they said it. So we're always building this picture of this world around us, and we're always putting ourselves into it. And then we're trying to get stuff done, right? We got to eat. We got to make money to put food on the table. We have a mission, whatever that mission is of any given day, career-wise, business-wise, personal-wise. And that is the stories that we live, and that becomes the stories that we tell. Have you ever been in an awful experience? Have you ever had just a terrible experience, like a really bad, even if it's just a really, really bad day, right? Where everything goes wrong. I had an experience like that this summer where I found myself at 4 a.m. staring at the ceiling of an Athens hospital with the disembodied screams of babies in the distance. It was a children's wing. With my son, my 12-year-old son next to me, we were trying to get some sleep on a gurney in the hospital because he had an allergic reaction and we had to go to hospital. And it was not a great time. As I lay there, I thought to myself, this is going to make an amazing story, right? So we've all had those, right? It's the one day we'll laugh about this. And those types of stories are not movies. Not that you couldn't go and make a movie with some of that information, right? The Netflix series of the disembodied screams in a children's wing of an Athens hospital. The point is, The hero's journey, a lot of the Hollywood approaches to storytelling do not work for business storytelling. They're too complicated. You don't have time to learn them. And that's why I panicked. And I don't want you to panic. So what we're going to do today, and what we do on these teardown streams with the power of 3D story, is we do look at a website and we figure out how we could make it better with storytelling. And if complex is one end of the spectrum, the other end of the spectrum is things that are too simple. Hey, Matthew, storytelling's easy. Just use beginning, middle, and end. Where do I begin? How far back do I go? What is the middle? How is that different to the resolution, or what the decisions are at the end? In fact, what do I put at the end, right? So the problem with things that are too simple is that they can be abstract. You need knowledge to be able to use them. And again, I don't want you to have to panic about that. I want to help you find that Goldilocks moment, right? That Goldilocks framework. And that's what I found with the power of 3D story. There's three things, just three things you have to remember that actually get you off in the right direction. Unlike beginning, middle, and end, which, okay, structure-wise, you need a beginning, you need a middle, you need an end, right? Okay, fine. But that's not telling me how to create a story. It's not telling me how to come up with a keynote pitch. It's not helping me as I build a website, right? So we want that Goldilocks framework, that Goldilocks moment. So what are the three things? Well, first of all is that first D, and that first D is desire. Desire. So as you go through your day, your central character in your world, what do you want? Are you thirsty? Do you need some water? Are you hungry? Are you working to prepare for a presentation? Do you have some data that you need to analyze? Do you need to go out into the fields and plow to get money to put food on the table? I mean, the spectrum of things that we desire every day are very many and very varied. The desires can be small, they can be big, right? I want my children to grow up into successful adults who are compassionate and motivated and make the most of their time and have a happy life, right? That's a big desire. That's like a meta strategy, right? If a strategy is something that we come up to try and do something, and the plan and the tactics help us get to that strategy, then a big desire is like a big strategy, right? But that desire is driven from our heart, from what we want, where we want to go, what we want to protect. And when we look at what companies need to communicate, it's going to vary depending on the product, depending on the type of customer, but ultimately it's about the customer. As a business, we want to solve that desire, right? And that could be a service that's being provided. It could be a product. It could be a mix of the two. And it's something that we have that can solve for that desire. But that isn't the only place that desire surfaces within companies. It's at every desk, in every office, and every home office in the world is where every employee is, right? And if every employee at that company stood up and walked out the door, logged off, never logged on again, that company would cease to exist. So a company is built out of all of these people who have these desires, right? And it's their career. It's achieving certain goals. It's making certain colleagues happy. It's finding a way to work better with other colleagues. It's preparing for a presentation, and we get back to some of the stuff we talked about earlier as well. So those desires can be very small at an individual level. They can be at a team level. It's all about desire. And as we start to transition into thinking about a website, what is the purpose of a website? Why does a company want a website? Why does a company desire a website? right? Company, and there's a couple answers to that, right? Answers in the chat, right? It could be to build awareness, capturing searches, backlinks. There's lots of ways that it could contribute to helping build the brand. It can be to provide that portal into purchase or a portal into service and support. Let me just spend a few seconds thinking about, as a customer, as a consumer, as a customer, as a B2B customer, why do you go to a website, right? You go there to get information. You go there to buy something. You stumble across a website because you realize that you really need to get your cybersecurity game in order. And your boss, who is the CISO, has tasked you with figuring out who's the best at helping us with this new threat that we're dealing with. There's AI fueled threats that we're starting to see. We need somebody that's going to be able to help us with that. What kind of business are we? Are we a bank? Are we a school? One of my kids' schools suffered a cyber attack at the beginning of the first term of school back in September this year, and the computer systems were shut down for weeks. It was wild, absolutely wild. And that is going to affect the desire. Where are they coming from? Are they trying to protect their customers' money? Are they trying to protect students? Are they trying to protect personal information? Are they trying to protect their own intellectual property? So again, we're seeing that desire is cropping up all over the place. But it's also a really good segue into talking about what's the second D. Well, the second D is there's all these things that we want, right? Do we get them instantly? Do you always get what you want in life straight away? Sometimes we get lucky, but more often than not, something stands in the way. And that is difficulty, right? So we want something, a character, whether it's us as a character in our own life, or a customer of ours as a character in their own life who we are able to serve, or a character who is an employee in our company. We want them to understand what the change in strategy is, what we're trying to do to follow us on this journey. And the things stand in the way of getting to that. How do we get to all these employees? How do we get these employees to understand that we're making this shift? How do we get the other departments in our organization to understand how important investing in security is? That goes back to and it would be more than $250,000 budget request for a big company trying to protect itself. So we now need to need to come up with a pitch. We need to go into that environment and win over everybody in that environment, right? We have to anticipate their character, the character that they're experiencing in their story, and their story is a part of that organization, that team being around that table, right? What does that mean? What that means is, as you think about this desire and now this difficulty that you're seeking to leverage to tell your story, also listen. Like the 6-month-old Matthew, who realized that he had to understand the story that was going on around him so that he could then somehow find ways to entertain or distract his mother, and eventually, as he became able to speak, to actually tell stories, to avoid getting put in his bedroom and locked in his bedroom because of that dangerous environment that his family had. Very simple little story there, but quite a lot of difficulty, right? Difficulty for the baby Matthew, difficulty for his parents. lots of layered types of difficulty, right? Emotional difficulty, communications difficulty, restoring a house difficulty, right? Things stand in our way, and things stand in the way of the person sitting on the other side of the table, and things stand in the way of the person on the other side of your website. What difficulties might your customers experience as they're coming to your website? They don't understand the subject, maybe. Maybe they're aware of cybersecurity, but they don't know much more about it, or they know a lot about cybersecurity, but in the context of like 10 years ago, right? We know as Go Narrative, and I know that clarity is a big issue for our clients. Organizational clarity, clarity in communication, clarity in the story being told, clarity in understanding, and that's standing in the way of growing, right? We also know that a lot of the stumbling that happens in storytelling is the wrong frameworks, using the wrong cliches and the wrong metaphors, relying on those, right? So we know those challenges, and so we can use that to our ends. I don't want to say to our benefit, right? That doesn't sound right. This is about helping you. This is about helping everyone with storytelling, but to the benefit of the customer, the person on the website, and the benefit to us. At the end of the day, that's what a business is about, value exchange. And we need to understand what that difficulty is for the person coming to our website if we're going to help them find their way through the forest, right? And that leads me to the third D. And no, forest doesn't begin with D, but the word denouement begins with D. And as much as I love simple and I love clarity, I love this word. I love this French word because of what it means. And it means the untangling of the knot, right? And that, the reason why I love that is because it's not the word solution. It's not about products. It's not about just using what it is that's being offered, the security platform, for example, or the help with storytelling. It's about the whole picture, right? It's about all the various things that your audience needs to do, right? If you want to keep handwritten notes, you need a couple of things, right? You're going to need a notebook. You're going to need a pen, right? You might, like I have discovered with these pens, I'm actually going to, on the cusp of posting a LinkedIn article about this, we might even do it live on the stream, is they leak, especially if they're held upside down. And so a pencil case is vital if I'm going to have this in my bag, right? So my solution is all these pieces. My denouement, my untangling of the knot is bigger than just the person selling me the pen might be thinking about. What does that mean for you? And when people come to your website, well, it means that you are thinking about them. You're thinking through how they're approaching it, what pressures they're under, of course, what they want, but also how they're approaching solving it, right? How they're untangling that knot. And then you can make sure that you're providing the right support to untangle that knot. Or you could just say, we sell pens and our pens have got great springs, and the springs angle is designed at this certain rate, because then that means you get this really satisfying when you do it, and blah, 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 blah. I think you know where I'm probably going with that one. So that is the third D. So we've got desire, difficulty, and denouement, the power of 3D storytelling. And I love the fact that it's 3Ds, because then it allows us to say, look, we can see it from all angles, right? 3D, we can see the whole story. We're seeing that whole story that we're trying to tell, right? We're not thinking in 2 dimensions. We're not just thinking about the website. We're not just thinking about the video we're making, the presentation we're designing, the pitch to our team that we're developing. We're thinking about the whole picture. We're thinking about the team, the employees, what they want. And great leaders do this. Some do it naturally and some have learned how. They understand, right? It's the Dale Carnegie, or was it Stephen Covey? Seek first to understand and then be understood. And when your website just pushes pens, you're not seeking to understand, and you're missing out on the opportunity to stand out and to rise above, to be the cream that rises to the top versus all of the other potential options that are out there. Okay. 3 things. Super simple, right? Super simple. Desire, difficulty to know more. So let's go and have a look, shall we? Shall we have a look? Shall we see the website that we're going to be having a look at today? We are looking at, and pull this up. And here we go. Is this making sense? You want something stands in your way, you untangle the knot, you get what you want, and everything's in a good spot. Or your customer, could be for internal, could be for external, right? Starting to make sense. So here we go. Okay. So as we look at this, I want you to be thinking about the 3 Ds, okay? And a subtext is always going to be who we're talking to, right? That can be and is several different things, right? There is the market itself, right? And that is as we know from Marketing 101, people who look somewhat similar, who have somewhat similar needs, who have purchasing power, right? So in this case, getting down to the person level, not just about companies, it would be a CISO or a CIO or a director of security, or depending on how big the company is, the role would be either its own security role or it would be a part of something else. So that's the basic market, right? But then you've got the audience within that market. So even if it's the person that the CIO has delegated to go and figure this thing out, and it's a recent college graduate, where is that audience as it relates to their understanding of the problem, the category, the products, your company? What level of awareness exists there? And same for a CISO. Right? A CISO probably does know about the category, otherwise they wouldn't be a CISO. Do they know about the zeitgeist of the category? How much do they know about it, right? Maybe they're an expert. Maybe they are all, we've been talking about AI a little bit. We mentioned AI earlier. And you might be a CISO and you might have spent hours learning about AI threats, or you might not yet. This could be your first day really digging into that. So as we look at this website, who are CrowdStrike talking to? First of all, the companies who we pick on as a part of this series have not been involved, unless otherwise stated, in this experience. This is a publicly available website that we're seeing and we have opinions about. And last week we talked about Asana, and we congratulated Asana on their clarity. So I'm going to try and find the good, and I'm going to try and find the opportunities to improve. Okay. And I I challenge the status quo. It's what I do to clarify a better way. And as far as business is concerned, that's storytelling. So about better stories. I'm going to challenge CrowdStrike. Okay. I'm not here to be somebody that is saying, yay, well done. I'm not in your organization. Okay. I didn't go through the political debating about what has to go on the website. I know what that's like. I'm very familiar with that experience from inside the organization and working with clients outside the organization. I know how tough it is. I know how much work goes into this stuff, and I know why it goes wrong. So kudos for the hard work that you've put in, and feedback on wasting an incredible amount of real estate trying to get somebody to go to an event or do a survey. Now, of course, there's going to be reasons for doing this. And one of those is going to be, what does the data show? Like, did we get a lot of people downloading that thing last time? And the data could show that that's something that we should do. But don't forget that there are the saying, lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? Data needs context. And Einstein has in fact got some great quotes on that. So let's see, give me some famous quotes on the problems with data. You could say, well, you're saying problems with data, Matthew. You're leading the witness on that. Well, yes, because that's some data that I'm using, but it's also because of the story I'm trying to tell. And that is, you want to put the right stuff on your website, and it's challenging to make that decision. And so your denouement is, we're using data to do it. And you've seen some data that said that you should be doing this, and it's worth doing a homepage takeover. At least I hope you've done that. Problems with data. And like Einstein, Spock was one that we had in a blog recently, Dr. Spock. And then there's like lies, damn lies, and statistics. And I don't need to use ChatGPT 01 for this. I'll do 4. So, and just to give you a little, let's see, let's have a look. Not everything. Oh, yeah. So this is actually on my father's gravestone. This was his favorite quote. So not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. And there's a bunch of others, right? If you want these, let me know, and I will drop them in the chat or something on LinkedIn or whatever after the show. Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. Andrew Lang, he uses statistics as a drunken man uses lampposts for support rather than illumination. But here what we're talking about is, yeah, you may have had great performance of a survey or an event in the past. It might be important to drive people to that event. You might not have enough people signed up for that event. Do you have enough people signed up for the event? CrowdStrike, how's that going? It's on the webpage. Hopefully it's increased. Anyway, you're looking at constraints, right? What are your constraints? And why am I going into this when we talk about storytelling? Because I know what the pushback is, because I've been there. And I'm here to tell you that this isn't good enough. If you're going to do this, what's the desire? I don't see a person here. I don't see any emotional state here. And I don't see eliminating silos. So the difficulty is there's silos across AI, identity, theme, and cloud. Is that the biggest problem that your customers have? Does that resonate? How do they feel about that? Because it's not being communicated in a way right now that is connecting. Here's the thing. You do need to be mindful of triggering emotions, right? But you need to trigger emotions. Emotions are feelings. They're part of how we function, how we operate as human beings. And if you're not tapping into them, you are leaving resources for communication on the table. We can do this. We can take some steps towards creating content that resonates both emotionally and psychologically by grounding this in validated customer pains, right? So perhaps you validated the pains that exist with the silos. Good, right? And let's say we're being emotional about the impact, but we want to trigger some positive emotions here. We want to tap into the human being, because it's still human to human. By 2027, when we get AGI, things might start to shift. Hello, super intelligence. How do we deal with that? That's a future problem. Won't cover that on today's stream. But for now, it's human beings, okay? And human beings want stuff. They want to feel vindicated in their decisions. They want to stop the problem that they have, right? The pain. Like there's pains and passions, right? I want something as a passion, and I want to pull the splinter out the pain, right? And when we talk to what people need, when we respect that, we can create trust, right? So how are we creating trust with this? Let's move down. Let's move down a bit. Let's have a look at the next section, because this is probably what was above the fold before the absolutely gigantic takeover was up here. Unified platform, one agent, complete protection, CrowdStrike Falcon, cybersecurity's AI native platform, and then a bunch of product information. I think we've got our pen. We've got, what do we have? What do we have here? Charlotte AI. Is that this part of the pen? Is it the refillable part, or is that the data layer? Where is my spring? Oh, the spring is buried in there. Okay, so the spring's in there. That's a feature. Spring doesn't come out. Is it the bit at the end? I don't know. I just want to capture my thoughts offline so that I can refresh my brain and feel energized and empowered in my day, and capture those ideas as they come in a natural flowing way. I don't care about the spring, okay? So we are leaving money on the table, right? We're not in danger of overloading anybody emotionally here, I tell you that much. So how can we trigger some of these exciting or rewarding emotions, right? How can we foster what happens when we talk to people in a way they understand? Like, you're here to get clarity. How can I tell stories better, right? What happens when I help you do that? Do you trust me more, or do you trust me less? Right? You trust me more. CrowdStrike need to be building that trust, and to do that, they have to be communicating with people, right? And so what could we do here? We could have something like this. Imagine a world without breaches, right? I was kind of playing with some of these earlier. What have they got? What have they got with their unified platform, one agent, complete protection? Oh yeah, that makes me want to click the button. Imagine a world without breaches. Now, how about, what if we had something like, what if we had something underneath, that sort of subtext, if you will? With CrowdStrike, you're always one step ahead. You can focus on growth, not fear. And we're talking about security, right? So it seems to be fair that we could be touching on fear. We're touching on it, but we're not belaboring it. We're not driving too much of that cortisol production inside the body of the human being that is reading it, right? Just enough, just a little sprinkle to get them to realize that they need to do something about it. Yeah. And that gives, and that starts to move in the direction of an emotional anchor, right? giving them a vision for what success could look like, a vision for what success, complete protection. I would expect pretty good protection from CrowdStrike. Did it make it to this? Because what we're saying here is we're saying complete protection, including AI, because the competition are behind us when it comes to AI, and therefore we actually offer it complete and they don't. It's a differentiating factor. It's defensible. We can go to bat and do the straight face test. Is that why it says that? That is a classic decision making by committee. That is a getting down to the lowest common denominator. And I know why this happens. This happens when you don't have a firm foundation of understanding customer pains, right? Build the hypothesis, test the hypothesis, and understand how you answer those. And if there's pains your audience, your target market, the characters that are going to be looking at your website have that you don't help with, then you're not gonna have that be a part of the conversation. Like, I don't care about the spring in this. Okay, it's a part of it. It makes it work, but it's not something I need to worry about. Now, if I have an expensive watch and something goes wrong in it, then I'm going to care about maybe the springs in the expensive watch. I might buy an expensive watch that shows off the springs and the cogs in the back, right? Because it's cool and steampunky and fancy, right? Complete protection, I would expect that, right? So even if it's true, is it rooted in those facts? And you might say, well, yes, it is rooted in those facts. It's like, if you have the facts, this kind of stuff shouldn't make it to this level of communication. When I see this, I see that, like I said earlier, the political debating, the review, the death by review. What I see when I see a really great message is I see a company that's got that great foundation, and now they're freed up for the VP of brand to imagine and create stories rooted in that truth, and for the product marketing team to create the sales decks rooted in that truth, and for the web team to create the copy rooted in that truth, right? Rather than feeling like we need to shout talk about the springs and the buttons on the web itself. And as we go down, we see this is, who are we talking to here, right? What do I see? I see late stage decision by committee, prove it. Well, we're buying CrowdStrike and they're market leaders, right? So this needs to exist somewhere. And it might be that you have the beginning of the journey to get to this at this level. But if I'm somebody that's freaking out right now because I don't have any idea I'm going to have to deal with this AI fueled security threat, do I feel good because I'm in good hands here? Maybe, but you still haven't built trust. So this doesn't matter. If I don't trust you, you can say, well, other people say that we're awesome. Yeah, but you're kind of creeping me out a bit. I don't know if I want to get in your van. That reminds me of a quote from AP Bio, which is a fun show that we've been watching with the family. We just finished. We like to do that. Pick a family show that's already got several seasons out, and then over time, light binging, shall we say? Maybe some nights we might watch 2 episodes, but maybe we watch an episode every couple nights. Something. We just did that with AP Bio, and there is a hilarious quote from that show, which was, "You can lick the devil's candy, but just don't get in his van." So if I don't trust you, this stuff doesn't matter, right? The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. Kaiser Soze from Usual Suspects, right? Convincing the world he didn't exist. Being a part of the story in a way that was invisible. Not saying, I've got the springs, look at my horns, right? So it always leads us to this point on a website. Customers trust CrowdStrike to do what's most. Okay. So are we feeling that any of those 3Ds so far, the desire, the difficulty, the denouement, right? What are people feeling after looking at this stuff? Maybe we'll see some in the customer stuff that we're looking at here. Maybe the customer stuff will be where we start to see some of those emotive words. We found last week with Asana that it didn't, and there was opportunity to improve. So what am I looking for when I look at stuff like this? I want to look at feelings of satisfaction, of accomplishment, of trust, right? And I see that when I see the problem being solved. So I see that when I see what they wanted, the desire, what stood in the way, the difficulty, and how they untangled the knot. And of course, it's obvious that CrowdStrike are a part of this knot untangling because this is on CrowdStrike's website, which, by the way, is another really good reason to go to your web team tomorrow and say, reduce, this is to everyone, this isn't just to CrowdStrike, reduce the number of mentions on our website of our name by 50%. You always see it. It's always there. I'm scrolling, but look, CrowdStrike, still there, not going anywhere. So we're using valuable real estate. Customers trust CrowdStrike to protect what matters most. Desire, protect, matters most. I mean, protect what matters most. I mean, that's not bad. Could we say it differently without using CrowdStrike? Could we use this real estate in a different way? Could we say something like, when it comes to protecting what matters most, who do you turn to? Ooh, now I feel like I'm in something. And this is the thing with storytelling. This, because it's our operating system, if you say the right stuff to people, you create a reaction. It's why certain words are really bad. Somebody says that one word and it is laced with meaning. It's representative of stories we know that have happened. It's why we coach our children on that, right? And say, just because somebody else in the playground is saying that word in that way, that doesn't make it okay. And here's why, right? Again, it's our story operating system. And there's desire, difficulty, and denouement in that, right? There's desire to communicate in a way that, for most people, that is comfortable and respectful, right? The difficulty is we don't always know what people's sensitivities are. Some things are obvious to a lot of people, right? Some things aren't. You could have come from a different country and not understand the context of a certain word, for example. And then that's introducing difficulty. Again, that second word, that second thing we talked about. And then the denouement, untangling that knot, is listening, hearing, learning more, understanding the stories of why, building that context, right? Understanding the stories and then upgrading your story and how you, the character of you, go out into the world and try to get stuff done. So when we rephrase this to say something like that, and I just made it up off the top of my head because that's kind of what I do all day. What was it? It was, when it comes to protecting what matters most, who do you turn to? There's a safe space on the website to say that, right? Like, could somebody else say that? Maybe, yeah. But contextually, it's working within this. It's drawing me in, right? Rather than just like, yep, check the box. Oh, Gartner, check the box. Case studies, check the box. Which again, you need that content for the late stage buyer, for the decision making by committee, but you don't need to splash it all over the homepage of your website. So what do we see in the quote here? We immediately started seeing the benefits of a modern security stack. Where's the desire? There isn't one. I want, I need, I was worried about and needed to change something. Difficulty. We immediately started seeing the benefits of a modern security stack. There's no difficulty in there. Denouement. We immediately started seeing the benefits. So the denouement included some benefits. It was quick and it involved the security stack. This is 100% pure, unadulterated denouement. There is no story here. We could have said, honestly, we were struggling to pull together everything we needed to protect our company. And then connect it to the headline. And so we turned to CrowdStrike. Boom, connected, emotional. Now I want to watch the story. Okay. So again, what are we seeing? So we keep going down the page here, but I'm not going to keep doing that. I'm going to say, if we look at the difficulties, like we had some ideas about the desire. So these were desire. So let's just go ahead and do this, do another one. And let's say maybe this story thread we could use here would be something like, cyber attacks evolve every second. Don't let your defenses fall behind. And if my systems are not connecting, I've got this new thing to augment something and they're not in sync, or I'm not updating stuff, or I'm not keeping up with the AI stuff. These could all be underpinning reasons for this, right? And then what would the emotional anchor look like? This is, by the way, this isn't about that customer quote part. This could be another element of the website as you're scrolling down through the experience in your day, spending your time looking at the CrowdStrike website. And it could be like CrowdStrike neutralizes threats before they become breaches, giving you control in an unpredictable world. And what we're doing there is we are tapping into, but being mindful of those negative emotions. We're getting just the right amount of the cortisol, and then we're coming in and we're making sure that we're focusing more on things like the dopamine and the oxytocin, and bringing people to us to feel like they trust us, right? By telling a real story that is honest, rooted in the truth of our brand, rooted in the pains of our customers that we know we can solve. And that's not manipulation. It's doing things in the right way to get the outcome, the ideal outcome, and everybody wins when that's the case. So let's see. We talked about those three things, and let's go back. Let's go and jump back to our three Ds: the desire, the difficulty, and the denouement. Right. So when we had this little placeholder there for the web fun, and we talked about who are we talking about here, and I want to reinforce that because, again, market, audience, these are all factors you need to factor in. And the problem is with a lot of websites, we end up focusing on the late stage buyer because we know our solution. We've got that. We spent so much time thinking about it, right? But what we want to do, and you see this if you go and look at the Go Narrative website, right? You want to make sure that you're catching the people who are not yet familiar with you. They're not familiar with maybe even the category, right? And if you were to step back and put your customer this, thank you, Ramona. Thank you so much. I'm glad that this is hitting the spot. Hopefully, it is a part of the denouement for you that is working out. Sounds like it. So thank you, and thanks for that little shout out. So if we step back and we look at the characters that we're seeking to communicate with, and we think about those three things. What do they want, right? What are they trying to get? Why are they trying to get it? Why? Why are they there today? They didn't get up this morning and have to do something else because the other stuff wasn't as important right now, is why they're at your website. And if you understand that, you can respect that, you can build trust with that, and then that then gets reinforced by also understanding the difficulty that stands in their way of getting to what they want, the why that is fueling what they're going through, the process that they're going through, how they're approaching it by coming to your website, and then showing them how that knot can be untangled. And we did not see that today. If I maybe I'll have to kind of start doing a scoring on these. And I remember somebody once said to me, as a parent, you are aiming for a solid B minus. This was a professional expert in the field of children. And I said, what do you mean? Like, I want to be shooting to be the best parent I can be. And they said, well, that's the problem. If you're shooting for an A+, parenting's hard. Like, even when you get some wins in a day, days can be tough, right? It's like for your children too, right? Our children, like, they tried to clean the kitchen up. They did some cleaning, but it wasn't finished. And so it's not clean. It doesn't look clean. And so it's like, it's not an A+, right? But if we can at least acknowledge the effort that was taken and see that there is some benefits there, so the B minus, go for the B minus. And if you aim for that, you can achieve it. And getting to something, it's like checking a to-do off your to-do list, right? Getting to that feels good, right? And a difficulty we have is aiming too high. And so we want to feel good. We want to feel accomplished. We want to feel that we're getting things done. And so maybe when I think about how I would score these websites, it's like, you should at least be aiming for a solid B minus. We want to see the desire. We want to see the difficulty. We want to see how they untangled the knot. We understand that organizational pressures come in, and there's an event that we have to promote, and it has to, we have to do a takeover or whatever. So there's going to be stuff that gets in the way. Seeing an A is really rare. I don't see those very often, and it's hard to do an A, to get an A in storytelling. And that's why I do what I do, because I know how, like I said, remember what I said? I started doing this myself and I panicked. I couldn't find the right tools. Well, that's why I do what I do, because I love helping people with this. And the 3D framework is we are one of our 9 frameworks. And in fact, we also have got this here, the Storytelling for Action playbook, which we use in our workshopping. Actually, in a way, it came out of our workshopping, and it is available on Amazon. And the first play is the 3D. It's a playbook, so they're plays, and they've got moves in them. So the first play is the 3D playbook, and we've got the play of, was it? So we've got 3 plays. So this framework has got 3 plays, right? So each play contains 6 steps. So each one very, very, like, I like practical advice, and I like guidance, and I like ideas. So we've got 6, each one's got 6, right? So this is desire, and then a bunch of ideas, boom, boom, and then worksheets. So you can see that, and that's what I had on that little slide that I had up to show you that. And use it as a working document, right? You jot your ideas down with your pen. My pen is now in pieces, took it apart. And that first play is available for download on our website. So thinking back to Jeffrey Cologne's message, LinkedIn post earlier, about giving information away for free. Maybe I'm giving too much away, but I want to help you. And I know that this is tough and getting an A+ is hard. And that's why, even if you do this, like, obviously you can do better when I can help you do better. So obviously there's a benefit for me there, but there's a lot of value in that. And then the rest of the playbook has got narrative. It will help you with narrative. It'll help you with putting stories into presentations, help you making sure you get enough emotions into your storytelling, and how to put all the story, how to put everything together. So very practical. And I would love to get your feedback on it. So check it out and let me know. It's up on Amazon, and you can go ahead and you can grab a copy of that. And I have different screens here that I need to, that's the screen share one. No. Which one do I click? There we go. No, wrong. Yes, right. Yay, I clicked the right button. Huzzah, huzzah. So what do I want you to do next? I want you to do two things. Number one, I want you to think about what story are you going to tell next? And this doesn't have to be a big story. This could be a story to a loved one about your day. This could be an email that you're sending to somebody. I want you to think about that story. And as a part of that, I want you to think about their story. Remember at the beginning, we were talking about if you're trying to pitch something in an organization, right? It's not just about storytelling, it's about story listening as well. So that's the second thing that I want you to do, is I want you to use the framework, the 3D framework: desire, difficulty, and denouement. So for story listening, what do they want? Start there. Seek first to understand, right? What is standing in their way? How are they trying to untangle the knot? How can you maybe help them with that? And then, what are you trying to communicate? What is your desire? What's the difficulty that's stopping you from getting to that desire? And then, how are you untangling that knot? I guarantee you, if you do those two things, look at it from both sides of that coin, both sides of the table, both sides of the email, you will notice some magic starts to happen. If you're going to do this in person, if you want to flex your story tonight, and by the way, if you teach something, basically tell somebody else what you've learned within 72 hours, your retention rate skyrockets. Some big number, 72%. I made the 72% up. I don't know the exact amount, but it's big. So tell 3 people. I learned how to tell stories, and there's practical stories. Business is really about getting stuff done. It's about helping people and getting helped. Value exchange, right? It's the professions of the world every day, whether you're trying to buy or sell something, or you're trying to convince a friend to go see a movie. It's all about storytelling and selling. Quite frankly, they go hand in hand together. So if you have an opportunity to tell a story to a friend, think about what the desire that you wanted, the difficulty that stood in your way, and the denouement, and tell 3 people that. I learned this simple way, just these 3 things to tell stories better. No hero's journey, no complex fairy tale stuff, no Hollywood training required. These 3 simple things. If you tell 3 people that over the next 72 hours, 3 people over 3 days, the 3 things, the 3 Ds over the next 3 days to 3 people, I guarantee you will remember this, and you will start to see the impact in the stories that you tell. And you can then start to apply that professionally as well. And if you're in charge of a website, I would definitely encourage you to, at the very least, download the first chapter of the book from our website and go through the exercise of figuring out the 3 Ds of who is coming to your website. And magic can happen. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope you've had fun. I've had an amazing time just knowing. Ramona, thank you for the message. I know there's a few other people as well that were able to attend today that I knew were attending. Thank you for participating. I hope you've enjoyed this. I love it because I love helping people tell better stories. Because I know, and I've known since I was 6 months old, if you can tell a powerful story, you can move people to act. And moving people to act is at every step, for every journey, for every person, for every audience, for everyone in business. So thank you. And I'll try to do this again next week. And I'll see you in our next stream. If you've got a suggestion on a teardown of a website you'd like us to do, let us know in the comments below. Have fun and have a fantastic weekend and a great evening. Bye for now.